All right, guys, well, a little bit different change of scenery than what you're used to in my shop. It is completely full, and what I'm gonna show you in this video is gonna take up quite a bit of room. So I got a lot to cover. I'm gonna try to be as efficient as possible to keep this thing as less boring as I possibly can. Bluetti has come out with two brand new products, and from the looks of it, it looks like they might be going in a little bit different direction than what we are used to, and I'll get into that here very, very soon. But their first product that I have right here is pretty much their first offering in the 12-volt cooler world. Now, this is a 50-quart, 55-liter, 12-volt refrigerator slash freezer cooler. They call it the Multicooler, I believe. It's built very well. It is heavy, I will tell you. It is 52, almost 53 pounds to pull around. It does come with a handle strap and a couple of wheels here on the back that does help you move this thing around, but it is not a light cooler, which is a good thing if you're gonna be throwing this in the back of a truck or a camper. It's gonna take a beating. Now you guys are gonna get an up close of this, but along with the features of the freezer slash refrigerator that this thing offers, it's got another trick up its little sleeve, and it's got a built-in ice maker. It makes two different size ice cubes. It takes 300 mil to up to 1,000 mils of water to create those ice cubes, and it just makes ice. So it's kind of a gimmicky, quirky feature. I don't know if everyone's gonna use it, but EcoFlow is the only other cooler that I know of that's currently making ice. I'm sure there's a few off brands out there that do it, but we're gonna make some ice on this video to see how well it works. The only thing that I will mention is that this ice compartment here does not actually keep the ice cold. So when the ice is made and it dumps into the little tray, you have to get that ice out and use it because it will melt, and then the ice maker will actually use that melted ice to make more ice. So just know that this is not an actual freezer. So once the ice is made, you got to use it. Now on the back of this cooler, you've got a couple of inputs, okay? So you got several ways to keep this cooler running. You can plug it into your AC grid. It comes with an adapter, which is this guy right here, just your standard power brick. It can run off of your 10 amp car socket with this included 12-volt cigarette style adapter to the plug it right into the side, and you can run it off of a solar panel with a battery installed in this thing, up to 200 watts of solar, 16 to 28 volts or 10 amps max. So I'm going to kind of explain how you use solar with this cooler because that's the second little trick up this cooler's sleeve. But you've got three different ways to keep this cooler running while out and about. So you have a couple of outputs on this cooler too. If you also want to like charge your phone up or something while you're using the cooler, you've got a 3 amp USB-A and a 100 watt USB-C output for your electronics, your phones, your iPads, charging up speakers, or whatever. And then down here on this bottom flap is where you're going to plug in your DC inputs or your solar connections. Then I'll try to move this up front to get you guys a better view of the handle. So this handle does fold down and it kind of locks in place. And it's a pretty sturdy handle. It's an aluminum handle. The last trick up this Bluetti's sleeve is on the front. So Bluetti has come up with something that they are calling solar swap. And this is where I think they're going to start releasing a lot more power stations that include this. And it is hot swappable batteries. So instead of your typical power station that has the built-in batteries, Bluetti has released, and I'm gonna show it to you, the AC180T. And it's got two lithium iron phosphate removable batteries. You can use one of those batteries in this cooler. So in the front, you got a little compartment here. And if you don't, when you buy this cooler, it does not come with a battery. It comes with this little basket in the storage compartment down here. You can put whatever you want in it, I guess. I'm not too sure, probably your charging cords or whatever, but this is what the cooler comes with, and it's got a removable little insert that goes into this cart. So this guy right here is the new, what they're calling solar swap batteries. This goes into their new power stations, or at least their 180T. Now this is 716 watt hours of LiPo4 batteries, and this simply pushes into this compartment right here, and the tolerances are very nice. There is no slop in putting that battery in. Now you've got a cooler with 716 watt hours worth of batteries that can power, depending on the settings that you use, it's going to depend on the runtime. This cooler can operate from -4 degrees up to 68 degrees. I don't know why anyone would ever use 68 degrees on a cooler. However, there is that range, and that is rated at an ambient 89 degree temperature. That is what Bluetti is claiming this cooler can do. Now, in refrigeration mode, this cooler takes 65 watts. When you turn on that ice maker, it's going to take up to 140 watts. So bear that in mind, that making ice is going to deplete your battery quite a bit faster than if you're just using the standard cooler in either freezer or refrigeration mode. Again, that's 65 watts. And then to get this battery out, there's a little button on the front of that battery, and it just simply slides out. Now, this battery weighs around 20 pounds, so these are not light batteries. But this is kind of the segue into the new AC180T that I've had for a month here at the house, that I finally get to show you folks what that's all about. All right, gang, here she is. This is the brand new AC180T. Now, Bluetti's got quite a few AC180 models. I've used the standard AC180. They have 180P, I believe, the professional model. They have the 180T, which is what we have here. This is the first power station where Bluetti is utilizing their solar swap hot swappable batteries. But with those two batteries put into this box, essentially, it's going to give you 1,433 watt hours with the two batteries. Now, the kind of the neat thing about this power station is you don't have to use both batteries. You can only use one battery or two if you have them. Depending on how many batteries you have in this power station, it's going to dictate how much wattage you can output and how much wattage you can charge. Again, depending on if you have one or two batteries installed. You're going to get your 4 standard 120 volt outputs, but you're going to get 2 Type-C 100 watt outputs and 2 3 amp USB-A outputs. You've got your standard 10 amp 12 volt cigarette style output, and then you're going to have your PV input. As far as solar goes, you can input only 500 watts, and it's rated at 12 to 60 volts. I wish you would have been able to put at least 1,000 watts of solar into this power station, but we're only going to be able to input 500 watts. You can supplement that with AC grid charging too. You can double dip, but 500 watts only for solar. And the other thing that I think this thing is missing is of course your high amp DC output. I wish every power station would have the high amp DC output, because it's so critical for running things like diesel heaters, tying into fuse panels to create, especially with all the camper vans and the camper modifications, we use high amp DC outputs a lot. I wish that would have had it. You really only get your cigarette style output here on this power station, and of course all your USBs, but you have no barrel outputs, you have no Anderson outputs, you only have the cigarette style output for DC. I think that is a little bit of a flaw on this power station, and I would have liked to see a little bit more in terms of DC output. But to get to the batteries on this 180T, you got a top lid here. Open that up, and this is where your two batteries are going to be. You can pull them out by pulling back on this little tab here and simply pulling them out. And here is your battery. Now up front, there are some LED indicator lights. You can hit the power button, and it's probably going to be hard to see here in the sunlight, but there are 5 indicators showing you the state of charge on these batteries. There is no type of DC output on these batteries, so you can't plug in a charger, you can't do anything with these batteries except use them in the power station or the cooler. So in terms of AC output, it does change depending on how many batteries you have in it, like I was mentioning before. So if you have 2 batteries installed, you are able to get 1,800 continuous running watts off of these 2 batteries. If you only have 1 battery installed, you're going to get 1,200 watts of continuous rated output. Either with 1 or 2 batteries, you're still going to get a 3,600 watt surge for about 1 second. But there is a 600 watt difference in terms of AC output, depending if you have 1 battery or 2 batteries installed in this. When it comes to charging, it also differs depending on how many batteries you have installed. So from the AC grid, you can get 1,440 watts put into this battery from your standard wall outlet if you have 2 batteries installed. If you have 1 battery installed, you're able to get 850 watts from your AC grid or a generator. You can supplement the AC grid charging with solar, so you can input the max 500 watts worth of solar and add that on to however much you can get from your AC grid or a generator. So you can double dip and kind of double charge this thing with solar or AC power. Like all Bluettis, this does have Bluetooth 5.0. Their app is great. It's very easy to read and to monitor and to follow. You can upgrade your firmware. You can do all kinds of good stuff with their app. And it's got a 5-year warranty. And the cooler, I didn't mention, has got a 24-month warranty. So the cooler's not quite as long of coverage as the power station, but a 5-year warranty on the power station is great. And this does have a UPS feature built into it, rated at a 20 millisecond switchover. So this is fast enough to potentially keep a server running or a computer running in the event of a power outage. But those are kind of just the main specs, guys. Now for the rest of the video, I want to show you folks this thing making some ice. I want to see how fast this thing can cool down to 32 degrees at ambient temperature, and we'll do a couple of AC output tests on the power station. But other than that, this is the new kind of offerings from Bluetti that I've been waiting to show you folks. So let's get into the testing. So let's see how long it takes this cooler to make just one batch of ice. So I did go ahead and put in one of the AC180T batteries. We are sitting down there, and we're gonna get this thing cut on, and this is sitting at room temperature. It is not cold. I haven't pre-chilled it whatsoever, but we're gonna fill it up with water and kind of put a timer on it, and my guess is the first batch is gonna take around 20 minutes, but we'll see. So to get this cut on, we're just gonna hit this power button. And what I like about this is it gives you the actual battery level. So I'm only sitting at 36% right now with that one battery, and that's gonna give me, at this setting, 25.5 hours. So that is pretty cool that it'll tell you how long this cooler will run off of what you have in that battery. So that's pretty, I like that feature. But as far as ice making is concerned, let's open this lid up. And I'm gonna put about 1,000 mils just straight into here. Now we're gonna go hit the ice making button. And I'm just gonna make one batch of ice. That's what that one means. If I wanted it to continuously run, it would have a different number, but that one just means one batch of ice for this time. And you can kind of hear it going. Yeah, look at that. So I'm gonna get a timer going here. Start. Well, we are 20 minutes into this ice making test, and we're still running. And we are at 31 minutes. I just came out here and we already have ice in the tray. So we probably got that down to around 27 to 28 minutes. But again, I just had this on one cycle, so it's only gonna make one cycle of ice. This ice will eventually melt and go back down into that cooler. And I had this thing set on the small ice cube, so you can set these ice cubes to be a little bit bigger if you want. Of course, it's gonna take a little bit longer as well, but this was the small setting on the ice cubes. Now, just like all the Bluetti products, this cooler actually does have an app, so you can log into it via your phone, and you can update the temperature settings with this little slider right here, and that's going to change the settings on the cooler. So I have that set to 42 degrees. That's set to 42 degrees. You can go into the ice, you can turn on ice making. So if you're sitting in your chair, you want to make some ice, you can turn that on. Turn on ice making mode, okay. And you can hear it starting. But I'm gonna get that cut off, cancel. And then some other settings, you can change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can, on your refrigeration settings, you can go from max to eco. I typically keep my coolers on eco because I typically have them running off of a power station, and this just helps preserve a little bit of the battery. But that's basically it for the app. It's just good to be able to log in and kind of see what your temperature setting is at inside the cooler if you're not right next to it. So the dimensions on this cooler, in case you folks are interested, is going to be about 16.5 inches wide, about 13 inches front to back, and the depth on this first compartment is 14 inches. The depth on the right compartment is about 9 inches. All right, so I'm out here trying to test the solar panels, and I've got my little 100 watt panel hooked up. This takes up to 200 watts, but only up to 28 volts. So that 200 watt solar panel from All Powers does not work with this because the voltage is too high. However, the only thing that I wish this thing did is just, it's gonna be hard to come through on screen, but it's just got a little blinking battery indicator showing that it is taking a charge. However, it doesn't give me any kind of watt input rating that solar panel is putting into the cooler. I really wish that there was some type of setting to let me know how many watts are going in, but it is working. So I just have the solar panel connections hooked up to the side of the cooler going directly into this 100 watt panel. So we are sitting right now at ambient temperature, 68 degrees inside this cooler. So I'm gonna get it cut on and see how long it takes to get down to 32 degrees. Now, I do have it plugged into AC power via the AC charging brick coming around, plugged into that guy right there. So I'm gonna set this down to 32 I am on the max setting, and we're gonna go. I'm gonna hit start, and we're gonna see how long it takes to get down to 32 degrees. All right, well, I didn't want to miss it, but the app is showing we're sitting at 33 degrees. The screen's showing 33 degrees. This is showing 55 degrees. Let me put that down there. See what we got. All right, so I put that thermometer in the bottom left of this cooler. We're showing 30 degrees now, and this thermometer is now showing 43. So obviously the left side of the cooler is colder, and that's, you know, hot air does rise. So me having the thermometer on this side probably did affect that. However, we're still not at 30 degrees, which is what this is showing. And for a time frame, let me get my clock up. 24 minutes and 30 seconds. So I would have liked to have seen, you know, at least this be closer to the 30 to 32 degrees that this cooler is showing right there. But you see the results there. All right, switching gears to the AC180T now, and I apologize if I'm going fast. There's just a lot to cover. So I'm gonna go over the most important testing that I did on this unit to give you a better idea of what you can get out of it. So for capacity testing, or how much can you actually squeeze out of this battery from the rated 1433 watt hours, I did a DC capacity discharge test using my little DC tester, charged this thing up to 100% like I always do, ran the test, and I was able to get out of this battery running that test 1,220 watt hours, which equates to around 85% efficient. That is about industry normal. It's not bad. It's not the best I've seen even from Bluetti, but 85% is gonna work for me. Then I did an AC capacity discharge test. So I hooked up my watt meter. I ran around a 250 watt incandescent light bulb array, let the batteries run down to completely empty, and I was able to get 1,321 watt hours pulled out of this battery on the AC side. That's around 92% efficient, which again, Bluetti's doing really well on the inverter efficiencies here of late. So 92% efficient off of the AC side is great. And then in terms of how efficient this actual inverter is, I did a parasitic drain. So I topped this thing up to 100% again. I turned the AC inverter on and I let it run for 24 hours. After that 24-hour mark was up, I came back. The battery was sitting at 74%. So it used about 26% of the batteries, which is around 1.002 something percent. Let's call it 1% per hour to keep that AC inverter running with no load. That's a very efficient inverter. Now with that testing out of the way, let's hook up a couple of heat guns on this, because I've got 2 batteries in this unit right now, and we are supposed to get 1,800 continuous rated watts. So let's make sure we can do that. Okay, so I got my heat gun here. We are going to turn on the inverter. Kick this thing up to max. 1,420 watts, easy peasy, no big deal. Let's get a little space heater action going. 1,750, 1,800, 1,850, 1,900, 2,000 watts, 2,050, and this will slowly go down once the space heater settles down. Okay, we're at 1,900 watts now. We're going down 1,850 watts. So this is about the max rated capacity of this unit with 2 batteries put into it. So while we're here, we might as well check the voltage and the sine wave. Got my multimeter there. Nice clean 120 volts, 119 volts. As far as the sine wave, perfect. Running 1,856 watts. We're gonna plug this thing in. I've got it on full, ready to get going. So I'm gonna plug this thing in and see if this doesn't trip. Yep, okay, we tripped. That's what it's supposed to do. I'm fine with that. Got the AC inverter blinking. Let's get this unplugged. Let's get this unplugged, and we'll see if we can run 2 heat guns at the same time. This is about a 3,000 watt load. 2,500 or 2,600 watts right off the bat. Ran for about 5 seconds. We're done. So again, this is only rated for 1,800 watts. So that ran 2,600 watts for a good 5 seconds before cutting itself off. So I'd say I'd give that one a pass. I'm gonna take out one of these batteries. Unit is still on, did you notice that? But one of these batteries is now out. So now this is rated at 1,200 watts. So I'm just gonna use one of my 1,500 watt heat guns to see how it reacts. Get that AC turned on. Let's see if one battery can handle this. 1,400 watts. Okay, we're doing good. Okay, let me plug in the space heater to see if it will run like it did when it ran on 2 batteries. Nope. So you can see the difference between having 2 batteries and 1 battery. It tripped trying to run the space heater and the heat gun on 1 battery. It did just fine on 2. Okay, and this does have a UPS mode. So I am getting the charging cord hooked up to my AC grid. I'm gonna scoot this over here. I'm gonna plug in the charging cord here. And we should start to charge after that. Yeah, I'm only at 92% battery. And I have this set on kind of the medium charging speed. I don't have it set on turbo. And right now we're inputting around 730 watts. Okay, so I'm gonna hook up this light bulb array here. Turn the AC on. Okay, now quickly I'm going to unplug this cord that is going directly into my AC grid, and you can watch these lights flicker just a split second, but that's the UPS mode switching over. So in 3, 2, 1. Hardly a flicker. Do that again just in case you guys didn't see that. That cord was kind of hard to get out. So we are now input from the grid. I am charging at now almost 1,100 watts. This can get up to 1,400 watts, but in 3, 2, 1. Hardly a flicker. And this is rated at less than 20 milliseconds, so you could potentially run some type of computer equipment, servers, modems, routers, and feel pretty confident that it's going to keep those things running. I don't have a computer without a battery in it to show you, but less than 20 milliseconds is pretty quick. All right, I feel like I'm being hugged by Bluetti. So what are my thoughts on these new products from Bluetti? The cooler, I got to give it a meh, to be completely honest. I wish I could have seen the watts being input from my solar panel to make sure, A, that it's working. It's just that little tiny blinking light. It was kind of hard to tell that it was even accepting solar. It was, but I would have liked to have seen on the screen some type of indication of how many watts I'm putting into those batteries. And then you saw that per the screen and the app, I was about 10 to 12 degrees warmer inside the cooler with my actual thermometer than what the app and the screen was telling me. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. I do realize hot air rises, and when I put the thermometer on the lower section of that internal cooler, it did start to get colder. However, it was nowhere near the 30 degrees that the cooler was telling me it was sitting at. So I think that the regulator or the temperature sensor in that cooler might be a bit off, because I wasn't close to what that thermometer was telling me, which is a little bit concerning that it wasn't near what the app was telling me it was at. And then the ice maker's cool. Is it a necessity? Absolutely not. It took around 20 to 25 minutes to make one little batch of small ice cubes. So if you know you're gonna want ice in one of your cocktails, plan ahead, obviously. I don't know how useful that's truly going to be. It's kind of a neat little feature if you really want it. It does use a lot less wattage than a standard, countertop ice maker at around 140, 145 watts. But again, I don't know how useful that's going to be. You just really have to like ice, I guess. It's there if you ever want it. And the cool thing on the app is you can be sitting in your chair 20 feet away from the cooler, and you can turn the ice maker on and it'll start making ice for you. You don't have to actually walk to the cooler to hit that button to turn ice. So depending on how lazy you are, that might be kind of cool. But moving on to the AC180T. This one, this is a tough one, honestly, for me. The efficiency on it, fantastic. Bluetti's really upping their game on these latest power stations they've reviewed and that I've been using. 85% efficient off of the DC, 92% efficient off of the AC inverter side, 1% per hour parasitic drain off the inverter. all really, really good numbers. What Bluetti is really trying to push now are these solar swap batteries. And I'll be honest, these are Gen 1 of these hot swappable batteries. And I think we're gonna see a lot of improvements on these. A, being you cannot use this battery standalone. Okay, you cannot put a phone charger in it. You can't charge your iPad. You can't run an LED light. There is no output on these batteries whatsoever. And the killer for me on these batteries, and it might not matter to you, is that you can't charge these standalone. You have to put these into the power station. There are ports here on the bottom, and I don't know, possibly Bluetti could be coming out with some type of charging cord to be able to charge these externally, which to me, this is kind of a no-go for me, because I want to be able to charge my batteries outside of this power station. So I don't know, just for me, I really think that you should be able to charge these batteries outside of the power station and have some type of DC output on them to be able to make them a little bit more functionable than just putting them in a power station or a cooler. Now, I can pretty much guarantee you Bluetti is going to be coming out with more products that are going to utilize this form factor. But again, I think these are Gen 1s, and I just don't think they're quite up there yet without the ability to charge outside of the power station or to output any type of DC device. Now, the good thing about these, and a lot of people might like it, is with these taken out, this power station is very, very light. And that's one of the things with these big, huge power stations that people complain about is they're so heavy to lug around and to move and to pick up and put in a truck. Well, this way you can take the batteries out, and then you only have to move 3 semi-heavy things. So you can move this by itself. This is only about 21 pounds. So they're easy to move when you have them all separated. You put them together, this thing weighs over 50 pounds, and that's kind of hard to lug around, especially if you're an older person. Medical problems, it's hard to lug these things around. So I can see the benefit of being able to take the batteries out and lessen the load, lessen the weight on these things. But I'll be anxious to see if these things get updated or upgraded in the future, mainly to be able to charge themselves outside of here. But they're good batteries though, guys. I mean, they were very efficient. I just don't know if a lot of folks are gonna like the idea that you have to have this power station to charge these batteries, or the cooler. You can charge the batteries in the cooler too. Anyway, guys, this is the AC180T. The Multicooler, Bluetti cooler, couple of new products coming out from them. I'm sure we're gonna be seeing more utilizing this type of form factor. But I will leave links for both of these products down below. Check them out if you want to. I don't get any money, any commission, any kickback of any sort from Bluetti if you buy this product or any Bluetti products you hear me talking about. But I will leave the links down below. And until next time, gang, see you soon. Thanks for watching.